Welcome to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast, the show that offers you tips and strategies to help speakers build the business of their dreams. Now here's your host, 30-year industry veteran and business coach, Jane Atkinson.
Well, welcome everyone to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. I'm your host, Jane Atkinson, and if you are joining us for the first time, welcome. I hope you'll go back and poke around in our archives because there are some doozies,
Gems.
including a couple from today's guest. Welcome, my friend, David Avrin.
So nice to see you, my friend. So great to be back. I mean, for us, we're friends, but
Yes.
then we connect on the podcast and the world gets to benefit from some great conversation and talk about speaking business on a higher level. And so it's always a thrill to come back and
Yes.
revisit and explore new subjects, and looking
I
forward to
love
today.
it. I love it. I think this is a three-peat. And I'll say, if you want to find the first two, go to speakerlauncher.com, click on the podcast page, and search David Avrin, Avrin, and you'll see number one and number two. Now, not on the podcast. Whoa. You did a lesson for the Wealthy Speaker School. I
Yeah.
think it's going to go all time in history as being the most downloaded. I know it's the one I reference all the time when we're talking about selling speeches because you spilled all the tea, sir. And I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. That was a beautiful thing.
Thank you. Happy to be of service. I will tell you, just in my travels, and of course, you and I are both involved in the speaker world internationally and international conferences as well. The amount of people that have come up to me and say, I heard you on Jane Atkinson's podcast, or as part of her course, your module. And so great kudos for you for helping to launch so many speakers, and I'm happy to contribute. But it's nice to hear that our episode, or at least
Hot,
that one segment has been very popular.
hot, hot, hot. Okay. For people who don't know you yet,
Yes.
tell everybody, what do you speak about today and to whom or who? I do not know the correct English. What do you speak about today and to what audience?
Sure. I am primarily a keynote speaker. This is going into my 25th year in this business. I speak on customer experience. Actually, the early part of my career, first 15 years or so, it was marketing and branding, helping organizations choose the words. How do we better describe what it is that we do to differentiate in a marketplace? And I saw the world changing, as many of us have,
Mhm.
and came to the recognition that what people say about us is more important today, it's more impactful, it's more predictive than what we say about ourselves. And so that was the research that sort of led into my book, Why Customers Leave and How to Win Them Back. And I've written a couple of them since then. But my whole business right now is about customer experience. For those who are watching the video version of this, you see it emblazoned on the wall behind me, helping businesses become ridiculously easy to do business with. And who I speak for, and I consult as well, but primarily keynote speaking and workshops, is any organization who's in a competitive marketplace, which
Okay.
pretty much is most anyone. And
Yep.
as opposed to specializing on an industry, I specialize in my subject, my component of that customer journey, and I deliver it across a variety of industries. And then, of course, just tailor it to those specific industries.
Okay. And where we are zeroing in on today, we did a podcast earlier on how to be ridiculously easy to work with. Um, where we're zeroing in on today is getting gigs booked and getting them booked internationally,
Yes.
which is not something that every speaker has mastered. So you told me a little bit about where you've been, where you've been going. We talked a few weeks ago and you were telling me that, and I'm like, oh, we need to do a podcast on that
Let's talk about that.
because I just think it's important. I want you to feel really free to name drop and feel like you're
Sure.
bragging because I want that from you. Okay, so permission laid. Tell me a little bit about where you're speaking and to what kinds of audiences.
The audiences are generally similar to what I do in North America. They just happen to be meetings that are happening other places. Sometimes they are local to that particular country. I've been very fortunate to have spoken in 28 countries around the world. My mom passed away very young at only 69 years old, and she had never owned a passport. And so I'm so fortunate to do things that my parents would have dreamed of. And
Mhm.
so I've been very fortunate. I'll probably do I'll do over a dozen countries this year, this within a calendar year here. Um, some of it is because of the launch of my new book, Ridiculously Easy to Do Business With. We just launched the book in Australia and had speaking gigs there. Towards the end of next month, I'm in India. I am in Abu Dhabi, and then a big European tour back in November, Amsterdam and London and Malta and some of those as well. So the next question, of course, is going to be how are you booking these gigs? And I'm happy to tell you more about it. But I do a lot of work I'm probably in Dubai a few times a year, uh,
Mhm.
Europe, Singapore, uh, Johannesburg. I'm really fortunate. But what is kind of interesting, Jane, is because between my wife and I, we've got 5 kids now grown and gone. Doesn't mean
Mhm.
they're off the payroll, but at least they're out of the house. I always raced home. I always raced home because my kids were in sports and music and all of that. And I'm in
Yeah.
a really great season that now we've got a lot of international travel, but my wife can go with me and we can stay and spend a little time and really immerse in the culture and the learning. I've spoken in India 6 times. I've never seen the Taj Mahal, and so we're going to
Oh,
do a lot more of that as well. But happy to talk about uh, the audiences and how we book the
all
events that
right.
we do in around the world.
Let's start with what you sometimes see speakers doing wrong when it comes to trying to book international.
Great question. Two things. Number one is is assuming that it's a big deal that they're coming. You know, even
Oh,
if even if they have, and maybe it's a uniquely American thing, and I don't want to get into American bashing. There's a lot to bash right now, but we hear this from speakers bureaus and meeting planners and others as well, is
yeah.
that companies should be very excited that they're going to be in their country. And the reality is we're just another speaker. And if we don't deliver value, there's local speakers as well. It doesn't mean that there's a way to leverage. And I'll talk about how we leverage that. So
Okay.
that's probably one of the mistakes is that the mere fact that you're coming is not newsworthy. You still got to pitch. You still got to have a great title. You have to have great takeaways. And you got to sell this. You got to make sure that they understand what the ROI is going to be. The second mistake, and this is a big one in just in terms of assumption, nobody wants to pay to fly you around the world. Now, it doesn't mean that the gig, and part of that is how we leverage proximity. I will book, like last year in November, we booked a great gig in Vienna, Austria. It was a
Okay.
company out of Canada. And of course, they paid for my travel, they paid for everything else. But we also booked Paris, London, Malta, Dubai, and we booked all of those during the same 2 weeks because we leveraged proximity, because I was already there. We were able to find events that were happening. We pitched everybody, and I'm happy to take you through the process of how we do
Yeah.
that.
I would like to know just a little offshoot and then we'll dive deeper.
Sure,
Was a part of the pitch that we're going to save you on some money on travel? What?
sure. But
Yeah.
we do, but yeah, but that's our leveraging of proximity. So part of the gig, it's sort of like what's the chicken or the egg? The way we
Mhm.
get a lot of our international gigs is because I've already booked an international gig. And then
Okay.
we
So you
leverage,
start
and
with
then we
one,
yeah, we start with one,
then
and
you
then we
start to.
say, I'm going to be there. Let's take advantage of it. And I learned this years and years ago. I had booked an event in Singapore,
Mhm.
not particularly well paid, but a big healthcare event. And we reached out to all the bureaus. We reached out to everybody saying, I'm going to be there. Here are the dates. Here's what I speak on. Give you a
Mhm.
great international speaker at a discounted rate. We booked Singtel, which is like their Verizon.
Yes.
I went to Manila in the Philippines, Sydney, Australia, a whole bunch of the other ones. So now we've perfected that. And I'll even give for your listeners and
Woo!
viewers as well the resources that we use. But we just find every event who's there locally.
Yeah.
If you're booking in Europe, and I've got a gig, like I've got a presentation in Amsterdam coming up in November. I'm not
Okay.
just looking for events in Amsterdam. I'm in Europe.
You're going
London,
all
London is a 45-minute flight away. So
around.
we're pitching London, we're pitching Munich, we're pitching Milan, we're pitching everywhere. But what we're pitching is established events. There's already an event going on,
Yeah.
and we're able to pitch them and say, I'm going to be there in Europe during these dates.
Yeah.
Here's what I speak on. My flight and hotel, or I'll say generally, my flight is already paid for.
Right.
Would love to present for your event. And so,
Okay.
granted, we don't hear back from most, and
Yeah.
others want you for free because
Yeah.
you're already going to be here. And it's like,
No.
no,
No, thank
no. But if we pitch 40 and I book three, that's
you.
I'm in Valencia.
Okay.
I'm
So
in Barcelona.
what I hear you saying is you're looking for the ROI of a road trip as a whole rather than maybe like that booking that first event, the one that gets the party started was Singapore. And yes, you agreed for that one to do a little bit lower fee, maybe, but then the other ones really made up for it. And you look at it as a success on the whole. Is
It's
that
a
right?
successful trip, 100%. Now, I wasn't looking to book the first one at a discounted rate, and
No.
this was years ago. Like
Yeah.
the one that we did in Vienna, Austria, and I've never been to Vienna, was full fee, very well paid, but it was a company out of Canada. So
Mhm.
there's really two aspects. One is booking the initial opportunity, and part of that is longevity, part of that is building relationships.
Yeah.
But it's also organizations that I've worked for, that I've spoken for, that have a global footprint. We're pretty diligent in following up afterwards. And what other events do you have, or do you have something that they'll have an Asian division? And is there an opportunity for a Pan Pacific something conference? And so
Mm.
part of it is the machine that we have behind the scenes. And once again, as we've said in our other conversations, we don't automate anything, but we're doing a lot of outreach. If I was a celebrity, my phone would be ringing, and it
Say,
rings, but we reach out a lot. And so if we can book that one gig,
yeah.
then it's game on, friend.
Okay, I want to go back to so much of what you said. I want to dig deeper in.
Sure.
We're going to get into fees because you just mentioned Canada and the Canadians are going, wait a second, they paid his fee, huh? We need to talk about that. But we never automate anything. Just
We don't.
expand on that
Sure.
idea. Tell me what you mean by that.
And you're welcome to go back to the archives and some other conversations where Jane said we spilled the beans. I have staff, and I didn't for the first 10 years, but
Hmm.
we're reaching out all the time. We're looking at organizations, associations, others who have events.
Hmm.
And so we look them up and look up their website and who was their speakers last year, when's their event this year. If their speakers last year were all industry people and I don't recognize the names, and they probably don't pay.
Hmm.
If I can see the names of colleagues of ours, I can have a good idea of what kind of a budget they might have. Um, and then we put them into our CRM, and our systems are so important. Doesn't mean we automate. It just means we memorialize. I don't know what's the word. We capture their information. But
And do
here's
you put it in, do you put speakers they had last year right into the
just
CRM?
in the notes, just
Okay.
in the notes, so we get a sense
All
of
it's
of
all in there,
yeah,
like
of
the,
what we're gonna when we
all
come
right.
back and they say we're interested, what's your budget, what's your fee, those negotiations, that's a
Okay.
whole different conversation, right? But here's probably the biggest mistake that speakers make who even do outreach, and most don't. I,
Mm-hmm.
I was very fortunate to be on the main stage for NSA Influence last year. And one of the things I talked about is the amount of people that they think they've got a great keynote, and they're told that they should speak their truth and step into their power, and they think the phone's going to ring. Or they're convinced to take a 3-day boot camp on hand gestures, and they're
Mm-hmm.
wondering why the phone's not ringing. We don't wait. We're not taking chances. Half of my presentations come to organizations who had no idea who we were, who I am, until
Yeah.
we reached out. So once again, that process. The biggest mistake they make is, even for those who look up events and pitch themselves or have somebody pitch for you, is they pitch when they find the contact. And the reality is, when you pitch, and this was a huge learning for us over the years,
Mm-hmm.
when you pitch is really important. If you look up an organization, and as of this conversation right now, we're in late July. If
Yeah.
their annual meeting is coming up in September, don't pitch them.
You're too late.
You're gonna get a note that says, "We already have our speakers for this year. We'll keep you on file." Jane, are they going to keep me on file?
Nope.
Not a chance.
Nope.
So we put a task for 30 days after the end of their last event. So they've had a chance to to recover from the event. They're thinking about the next event. They're probably putting their committee together, and then we want to be in first. So part of our process is we'll look them up. We'll find out when their next event is. We'll get ready to pitch, but we'll set a task for 30 days after their event.
Yep.
That's a six-figure piece of advice for all of your viewers and listeners. Just that.
Yep.
Now, of course, that's generally for association because they publicize when their events are, corporate less so.
Corporate.
So um, anyway, that's our process.
I want to mention it may not be automated, but it is systemized, my friend.
100%.
That CRM for them is gold. Now, let me ask you, how many contacts would you have in the CRM at this stage? You've been in it how many years and how many contacts? I'm curious.
I've been doing this for this is my 25th year, but we've had our CRM for about 15. So I did 10 years where it was just me.
Okay.
How many are in there? I'm embarrassed to say I don't know because I don't do it. Because
I'm
I
gonna
have
say
staff.
I'm gonna say it's above 10,000.
Probably. No,
But what that
but
gets
we
me,
also know that, but two-thirds of those people aren't in those roles anymore.
yeah, that's true.
But I
But
book, go
you
ahead.
got notes saying Pan American Conference on such and such of this date every year. And I'm wondering if CRMs are getting good enough that you can search Pan American like who's got a conference, like kind of using your
Well,
CRM
there,
as an
well, there's a
AI
couple of things.
tool.
One is Sam Richter's engine is really good for that,
Yeah.
and the other one I'm gonna give you, but not yet. This is to make everybody keep listening. Is
Ooh,
the resource we use for international, but
okay.
an example, I booked an event a week ago. It's going to be for next year.
Okay.
Good fee, and I went back and looked in our CRM, and I've got a young woman in the Philippines, and all she does is do the research, and then sometimes she'll send out the first email, but she doesn't talk to anybody. It just comes to us.
Hmm.
She's pitched them for 4 years, every year for 4 years, because after two, three touches, if we don't get a response, then we just set a task for 1 year later.
Hmm.
4 years later, we booked the gig. We're planting seeds. This is the one thing I want to pass along to your viewers and your listeners. We plant seeds all the time and we water those. And
Yeah.
so, what's different now? Probably two things. Probably number one, there's different people on the committee who are making the decision.
Right.
Right. And number two, whatever theme they have probably better aligns with my message. So just because you pitch somebody once and there's not a fit, or you get down to the end and they choose somebody else, it doesn't mean you're not going to book them in the future. So we book a lot
Yeah.
for seeds that we are watering year after
For
year.
years.
And
For
so
years.
and so part of the international comes from the relationships that we booked. You mentioned the thing about Canada. It was a company out of Canada,
Hmm.
but their event was in Vienna
Yeah.
because they have a global footprint, and they flew in all of their salespeople and everything for that. And so uh, once we booked that event, which was great, shooting a note to my wife, we're going to Vienna.
Hey.
But then we went to work. And so this is where we are very good at this. Um, and let me bring everything back.
Okay.
Everything I say, this feeds my family.
Hmm.
So none of this is arrogance. My God, no. I mean, somebody asked me last year, why do you still do all of this with your success? I'm like, it's the only reason. If we stopped doing this, we would be dead in the water,
Yeah,
just like everybody else.
we need to pay our bills and we need to
I'm not a celebrity.
have some yummy
So
meals.
yeah, so once we book something, then we look at the calendar. What's my availability the week of, the week before, and the week after? And
Okay.
so we block out whatever that is, and I try and find 10 days to 2 weeks around that date. And then we go to, and this is, somebody said to me once, why do you give all this away? You're going to lose gigs to other people. I said, yeah, I will, but there's enough for everyone.
The pie
And
is big enough, people.
yeah, and people helped me. this is the gold mine. There's a website called 10times.com.
Okay.
It's the number 10 times.com, 10times.com. I don't know where
Okay.
they got the name. They list pretty much every event going on in every city and country in the world.
Oh my gosh.
We we we've made seven figures over the years from this website. And so what we'll do is I'll look up first, say I'm in Amsterdam on the um, 11th of November, this coming
Mhm.
up. So we look up November Amsterdam events. Now, a lot of them will be the fourth conference on nephrology, a lot of medical conference. You weed through it all, and then
Yes.
you find the ones that apply to you. It might be some fire suppression, something equipment conference, which actually we're talking to right now in out of Brighton, England, or yeah, I think so. And we look up who's the person, when's the dates, whatever else, and I send them an email. It's generally from me. We've found it works better if it comes from me. Hi, I'm so and so. I'm going to be in Europe speaking for another conference. It's a rare opportunity to catch me while I'm there.
Yes.
I am the author of this. I speak on this and this. I have great experience in your industry. If you want to skip the rest of this, click on this video. You'll see in 4 minutes what I do. Would
Okay.
love to set up a Zoom call. Now,
Okay.
I will freely admit many of them don't respond, so we give them multiple touches, and a lot of them want me for free.
Okay.
And I just don't. I mean, there's occasionally if it seems like the right one and I'm already there, but like I got this one in India because we're doing leveraging proximity for an India gig that I have, and the woman responded and she says we have a philosophy that we think that knowledge should be free. And of course, I swallow because I want to, or as my 25-year-old daughter would say, have you met my dad? I want to come back and say, oh, really? I'm free, but you're going to pay for your caterers. You're going to pay. And it's like, just calm
Yeah.
down. And I
Yeah.
said, well, I understand the philosophy, but that's like saying you can have free health care, but somebody has to pay the doctor.
Yeah.
And so I bring a different value proposition. Here's what I'm willing to do. I'm already there. I give them a discounted fee, and we'll see how they come back.
Hmm.
So don't believe for a minute this is a panacea, that this is the golden key, but it's a winning strategy.
Okay. Let's talk about fees.
Yeah,
Because one thing that I don't love to hear my students or anybody say is, oh, that's Australia, they don't pay, or Canada, they are cheap, or Europe, they don't pay. Talk a little bit about your mindset going into this, because to me, that's just a mindset shift. Because I will now say, well, wait a second. I interviewed David Avrin for the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he told me all those countries paid. And it may be that it is a company, you know, just
right.
talk a little bit about that.
Well,
You're not doing
and
it for
and
free.
that's what the value of these conversations, and you might not like what I say,
Okay.
but many of those countries don't pay the fees that we have. It doesn't mean that,
100%.
but there is a cachet of
Mm-hmm.
coming from somewhere else. It doesn't mean that they're so excited that you're coming.
Mm-hmm.
But what I hear often, and I'll hear it from bureaus, I'll hear it from others as I travel. Now, you know that our country doesn't pay what you're used to, right? And
Yeah.
I say, I got that.
Yeah.
But here's what I need to take a date off the calendar.
Yes.
And that's my verbiage and always will be. For those speakers who are reluctant to sound greedy because no, you're taking a date off your calendar. And so what we will say oftentimes is we'll book the date. So for me to I can be flexible, but to take a date off my calendar, I need to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they'll find it and sometimes they won't. And we all know in this business, at the end of the day, you decide, is it worth leaving your family for this fee or is it not? But we always quote our fee and then we wait.
On the big scheme of things, are you operating off a fee schedule, and is your local keynote fee one price and then out of state another and international another? How do you do that?
Sorry, what is this local fee you speak of? I never speak. I'm in Colorado. I
If you
speak in
sleep
Colorado
in
every
your own bed, there's
five
got to be
years.
something
No,
to.
I can't book. So we have two fees. We have national. which really includes for United States includes Canada because we're still here. And then
Uh,
what we have, but Canada doesn't pay as much, but we still quote our fee and then we wait to see what they come back and we negotiate.
mhm.
We have the domestic fee and we have the international over water. So
Okay.
that's our terminology. This,
Okay. And
this is what we need for international over water.
yeah. And so let's talk about that because some people will double their fee for international because it's going to take 3 dates off their calendar minimum. But you have this philosophy that I'm booking international, baby. And so you'll turn it into some sort of European.
We know the trip will be worth it,
You know the
but
trip will be worth it in general. So you're more perhaps not doubling or tripling your fee for international. Am I right?
no, but we are not.
Okay.
Um, however, however, and this is a harder conversation,
All right.
is that just because I want to charge double or triple my fee doesn't mean somebody's willing to pay it.
True.
We're very pragmatic that way.
Okay.
I can stand on principle and say I'm not leaving for this. Okay, great, and then I don't leave and I don't do the gig. It doesn't mean that we're discounting left and right, but we have a good sense of what it's going to cost. For me, yes, I'm taking those dates off the calendar, but just because I'm taking a week off my calendar doesn't mean that their budget automatically inflates as a result of that. So we're
Mhm.
very pragmatic. So what we have as a philosophy is what's it going to take for me to get on a plane? And I have a couple of representatives, agents who do the Middle East and the Indian subcontinent for me.
Okay.
They know what it takes for me net
They know their bottom line. Okay.
before I get on a plane. Now they can do that in a combination of we've got this gig only pays this, but we've got this company who also pays this. Doesn't mean that's what I want to make. That's the minimum
Yeah.
for me to take a week or two off my calendar. And so we've made that decision as a family that
Yeah.
I need to make X to get on a plane and go overseas. How I make that, because I love this, Jane. I love what I do. If they're saying, yeah, but we want you to do a second session, how much more? Tiffany in my office, who's been with me for 13 years now, I heard her saying once, somebody asked, well, if he does the morning keynote, how much to do a breakout afterwards? And she says, I don't think you understand. He loves this. You're, you're just paying for him to leave his family. And
Isn't
I
that
laughed and she goes, well, it's true. I said, it is true. It
it's
is true.
so
So
you don't
for
always
us,
charge for
we
that second piece.
say again,
You don't always charge for that second piece.
not on the same day, not
Okay.
domestic.
All right.
And nobody
Not
really
domestic.
does.
Okay.
But
Okay.
if I have to stay an extra night, whatever. But let's stay on international.
Yeah.
So for me, I can't double or triple because nobody's going to pay that. Uh,
Okay. Fair
because
enough.
my fee is already healthy.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that somebody doesn't or somebody won't. And I've done a few like that. I look at the trip in totality, and how much can I book? What else can I book while I'm there? Especially if I have enough time to leverage proximity. And then I have a really rich and full life. Last year we started in Paris and went to Malta and Vienna, and I'm speaking at all these locations, but I speak for an hour. And then I get to do things that I wouldn't have ever done before. And then the other thing I've been doing, and this is just, I don't know, I'm sharing this. I learned this from Lewis Howes, is that when I'm in some of these amazing locations, I rent a photographer for an hour,
Ah.
take great pictures. And so I have amazing pictures of me and my wife in Paris and Vienna, and it cost me 150 bucks. And then I have some great brand shots that I use in Instagram posts and others as well that isn't so touristy, but I am maximizing my presence and leveraging proximity. And I'll tell you, I learned this from Mike Domish when he was still speaking a lot of high school and colleges. And he was the master Hall of Fame speaker, one of the greatest guys on the planet. And he would tell me about, I learned this early that for the youth speakers, they'll book a high school and then they'll call every high school within 5, 10 miles, and they'll book 4 days
Yeah.
back to back to back to back. Once you know you've got a gig, leverage proximity. I think eSpeakers has a proximity feature now. We haven't used it
Oh,
before. Yeah, that can tell
nice.
you what other opportunities might be in that region. For those watching or listening, you can go to eventsinamerica.com. If you've got a gig coming up in March in Las Vegas, at the MGM Grand on a Tuesday, find
Mhm.
out every other event that's happening in Las Vegas that week.
And also, we haven't even brushed on AI yet because AI, if you tell them your parameters, I'm going to San Francisco on this date. Tell me all the conferences that are in this space that are
Absolutely.
there. I I think that this is all just going to keep getting easier and easier. So, one of the overall things that I'm feeling from this conversation because somebody, I can't even remember who I talked to a couple weeks ago, who said, "Oh, the economy, business is down, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Really? That's not really my experience." I'm surprised that you're saying that. Give people something that says, "This is what we're doing, and therefore it is possible."
Yeah, what we're doing is we're not leaving anything to chance. Probably half my opportunities are somebody who saw me in the audience or incoming calls. We're
Yeah,
very fortunate. It's not enough.
that's a
I have five colleges to pay for, five
mhm.
American colleges,
Ouch.
and four full-time staff.
Mhm.
We're very I was going to say aggressive, but we're not. We're diligent.
Yes.
We're just
Efficient.
we're efficient.
Yes.
We are relentless.
Okay.
We're not annoying. And we're not, and when I say not automated, it means don't get a list of 10,000 people, do a mail merge, and send out a blast. What are you going to do the next day?
A spray and pray.
Oh, and
That's not a
but it's a terrible strategy because we're all inundated with so much spam that
mhm.
people just delete, 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 delete. I don't want to be deleted.
Yeah.
What percentage of those, had you actually done a little bit of research before you did the pitch, might have been an opportunity, but you'll never know. So we have great systems.
Yeah.
We are diligent in terms of reevaluating what's working and what isn't.
Yeah.
What we'll do A/B studies, tests. So we'll do two different emails, not blasts, two
Mhm.
different emails, and we'll do 10, 20 each and see what gets a response, what doesn't, what's being clicked on, what isn't.
Are
And
you finding
yeah,
short and sweet emails are getting more of a response? I know you told me before in another
yeah.
conversation, it wasn't the first email, it was the second or the third email that got somebody to raise their hands. Are
Yep.
you, tell me about, talk about length for a second there.
We size matters. Over the years we experiment with different messages. The more we try and say, the less likely they're going to even read it because it's daunting. The analogy I would use is you look at a book, and if it's 800 pages, you don't even want to start it, right?
Yeah.
It's daunting. So we do a very simple pitch email, and we don't do cold calls, but we do a lot of cold emails.
Okay.
Shorter the better. It's got to be enough information because it just think of the pitch letter as a resume. A
Yep.
resume has one job. A resume doesn't get you a job. A resume gets you an interview, right?
Right.
You just want a response.
Want to
So
get them on a
give me
Zoom
enough.
call or
And so
something.
for us, everything is about getting them to click on my preview video. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
if they'll click on that, then we've got a good shot. If they don't, we don't have it. And
Monica,
so this,
let's put a link to David's preview video in the show notes as well. We're going to put 10times.com, eventsinamerica.com, and David's website. Okay, final question.
yes,
You could circle back to the early days, 25 years ago, and
yes.
give young David some advice. What would that advice be?
My advice would be what I said on the main stage at NSA Influence last year, which is speaking is not a business. Getting the gig is the business.
Hmm.
So if I was going to give myself advice, I would put in CRM and processes early, early, early. I would instead of a desk full of sticky notes,
Yeah.
trying to remember who did I respond to, just document everything. It
Yeah.
also helps that if you bring somebody in or if you lose somebody on your team, it's all there. It's the whole CRM, the R and the M is the really important part, which is it's relationship
Management.
management. And these are relationships. We're
Really
forging
good.
relationships. We're finding contacts and turning them into leads, and leads into prospects. And we're massaging those prospects into paying gigs. And so the first thing I would do is I would set up a system. It can be Karma CRM, it can be Speaker Flow, it can be almost, I mean, they're all good. I mean, they all
Yeah.
do, and they can easily migrate from one to another.
Yeah.
But putting those systems in place so you have a way of how are we finding the context? When do we reach out to them? What do we have on our last conversation? And over the years, it grows and grows. You cannot remember all of this. You cannot.
Yeah, for sure.
And
I
of course,
remember one time.
the content in the outreach, right? The quality of the message, the title of your keynote, all of that is so incredibly important.
Yeah.
I was sitting with a young kid who I'm mentoring, who I'm bringing to the conference this year, and we were going through all the breakout sessions at Influence. Jane, some of the titles are so bad.
Yeah.
You have no idea what it is that you have to read it to find out what it's about, and they think they're being clever.
Yeah.
But if they pitch that to
Clear,
the outside world,
yeah, clear over clever, people.
clear
Yes.
over clever.
I remember doing my first NSA session. I did a breakout session on, I don't know, how to get booked or something. And my boss at the time, Vince Pacenti, I think we had probably been together for about 2 of our 6 years. And he sat in my session. And at the end, he said, "Wow, I had no idea you did all that."
Like, what do you think I was doing every day?
This was probably 25 years ago that I did this session. He said, I had no idea that we did all that. You just hit on something that's really important. When you have a system, and let's say I leave, which I did 4 years later,
Sure.
somebody else needs to be able to step in to that system, and it should not be. And speakers, may I just say, please know your system, because you may also need to augment their training. You can't just sit them in front of a CRM and say, now go. You need
Yeah.
to understand it. And David, you do all the things that we were doing back at Vince Pacenti's office back in the day. And I
This
think,
goes back to Michael Gerber. What's the book? The E Myth, right? Or the E Myth
yes,
Revisited. Where the
yes,
big mistake when you start to grow is you're so excited and you finally get an assistant, and then you don't delegate, you abdicate. Now you do it.
yeah,
And then at some point they leave or they get sick or something, and you're screwed because you don't know how they do. You cannot abdicate,
no,
delegate, but you got to know how to do everything. How else can you manage them as well? And for newer speakers, most speakers don't have staff. I didn't for 10 years, but
yeah,
it doesn't absolve you of the responsibility of putting a business behind your speaking. The
yes.
only way, the most elusive thing in this business is longevity. And the only way you have longevity is if you have systems and process to sell.
Keep
It's a
planting
business.
the seeds, watering the seeds, fertilizing the seeds. It's all a process. Well,
It's
David, you have not disappointed once again. Thank you.
always a treat, my friend.
I might want to purchase one of your books. Where is the best place should they go
Sure.
to your website?
Listen, it's always going to be about the most recent book because the other stuff's outdated. It's ridiculously easy to do business with. It's on audio, it's on Amazon,
Amazon.
everything.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
And if you want
Or,
to learn more about me and get a sense of who I am and how I present myself to the marketplace, right? We all want to emulate, we learn from each other. Just go to my website at davidavrin.com.
Avrin. Thank you once
Thank
again,
you.
friend. I appreciate you so very, very much. And with that, we're going to say, see you soon, multi speakers. Bye for now, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. If you need help building the speaking business of your dreams, head over to wealthyspeakerschool.com and take advantage of our 20-minute next step call. Thanks for listening to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast.